Hello, welcome all viewers. Welcome to AssetPlus. And today we have with us Sumaira Abidi, Vice President of Public Relations and Investor Connect at SBI Mutual Fund. We are here to discuss the new fund offering, that is NFO, offered by the SBI AMC about Innovation Fund. A brief introduction about Sumaira. She comes prior to joining SBI Mutual Fund. She spent 11 impactful years at CNBC TV 18, where she excelled in various capabilities and capacities. During her tenure at CNBC TV 18, she carved out a distinct niche for herself, particularly in the investor education and mutual fund awareness. Her hallmark contribution was the creation and successful hosting of MF Corner, that is Mutual Fund Corner, a pioneering show that directly engaged with retail audiences, demystifying investing complexities and promoting financial literacy. I think that's very important in these days as well. And her commitment to simplifying investment concepts for the layperson resonated strongly, making her a trusted voice in the financial media landscape. I welcome you, Sumaira ji, here in this segment of ours. Hope you are doing well.
Abhinay, thank you so much. My pleasure to be here.
Great. Directly before starting out, this conversation of ours, I think we are here to discuss the SBI Innovative Opportunities Fund. That is the NFO that is coming up. The NFO period starts from 29th July 2024 and is open till 12th of August 2024 for subscription. My question is pretty straightforward in this regard. Is that what is innovation from your point of view? Can we start with that?
Okay, so thank you very much once again for having me here, and thanks to all your partners and investors for the interest they have showed in this fund. And what is innovation, right? So everywhere you look, all right, anything that you see this sticker saying new and improved, right? It's on hoardings, it's on our gadgets, it's on everything that we consume. That is innovation, right? It's nothing but a forward-looking improvement that can make some sort of a marked difference. Now, whether it's in the form of a product or service, we would use keyboards. Now we've got touch screen. There are painless surgeries, the aeroplane, you have robots, drones, driverless cars, whatnot, 10-minute delivery of groceries, right? Even Instagram, YouTube, these are all forms of innovation. And I don't mean innovation for the sake of innovation. Because we are talking about, a fund over here. So in terms of the fund, what we mean by innovation, when we say innovation, we mean innovation which can translate into a 15 to 20% improvement in the top line of that company, whether it is present or future. So in terms of an investment opportunity, the innovation that we are talking about, that particular form of innovation, must be able to be quantified.
You actually, preluded to my next question. You gave a nice prelude to it. The question is, what is the concept of the SBI Innovation Fund, Innovative Opportunities Fund? We keep hearing about all of these new technologies coming up. Everyone is innovating. Everyone is coming up with these AI stuff. Then there are technologies moving at a rapid pace. By the time we get used to one technology, another one comes into the picture and it completely blows away the whole landscape, I could say. So what is the concept of SBI Innovative Opportunities Fund?
Okay, so you have said it, right? So every sector, every sphere, every geography is full of innovation, right? So you have things like this Tesla, Netflix, and look at the kind of value creation these companies have done, right? So in India also we've seen opportunities like this, like if I just take a few names off the cuff, say a delivery, First Cry, Zepto, PhysicsWallah, Zerodha, and these are all innovators, right? And
Correct.
Our investment team believes that over the next decade, the next 10 years, we are going to see many, many more innovators who will be emerging in India. And we are quite positive that they will be taking market shares from the incumbents, from the existing companies. Abhinay, it's no longer absurd to think that in the next decade, we will see many of these companies, even in the Nifty 50 index, right? And we want to be aligned to that change. And hence the SBI Innovative Opportunities Fund.
That's supremely, that's very good to hear. I mean, it's actually quite exciting. The India story is quite exciting. We keep hearing about all these, growth factors. The GDP is going at a tremendous pace. We are making headwinds into the overall emerging fund. I mean, we are actually the leading economy in the world. So, what do you think are the factors that are influencing India's innovation story?
Oh, there are so many, right? Let's say to start with a booming startup ecosystem. It's the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. And, we have a very, very strong talent pipeline. Did you know that India produces 2.5 million STEM graduates every year? The
That's
AI penetration, for example, what we see in India is more than 3 times the average of the G20 countries. Skilling and upskilling is like an endemic here, right?
Yeah,
And look at the government initiatives. There are startup initiatives. There's the Atal Innovation Mission, India Stack. There is a credit guarantee scheme for startups. Just through PLI, the total outlay is over 2,500 billion, right, rupees.
correct.
We have an absolutely massive and ever-growing consumer market that is what almost, I would say, 1.5 billion people. And as the country grows, as we progress, the number of people at the bottom of the pyramid will keep reducing. And the people in the middle of the pyramid, they are going to become huge. So just the middle and the aspiring middle class will account for over 300 million people. That's a massive market. And look at the digital infrastructure which is supporting this, right? So we have 800 million smartphones. Okay, of these, 10 million are active 5G devices. There are 118 billion transactions done on UPI. A
Correct.
total of 300 million plus digital payment users are there. And for every GB of internet, the cost in India is what, 16 pennies,
Yeah.
right? And this is all backed by a very, very strong funding infrastructure. So in just the first quarter of this year, 2024, startups raised about $150 billion. So it's safe to say that this story is pretty solid.
I mean, yeah, I can barely, keep. I mean, I barely remember now. It feels like such a long ago that we used to spend a lot on internet, and now it's become such a, it's a common commodity now, and more
And
internet.
innovation. Remember, we have
Yes,
to dial the phones into it.
absolutely. I mean,
Now
that
your
has.
Wi-Fi connects everywhere.
Absolutely. I mean, when I speak to the younger audiences, whenever I have the opportunity, they look at me as a man coming from the caves. That what are you talking about? And because they're
God,
so
that'll
used.
make me a dinosaur.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Absolutely not. I can assure you that. So, I mean, continuing with this conversation is that why do you think that SBI has decided to come up with this fund now? I mean, you mentioned these factors, but is there any specific reason why we are looking to launch this fund now?
Okay. So, for every fund, this is a common question, right? Why now?
Correct. Correct.
But no new fund can ever be timed to perfection, right? But with this fund, the general feeling is that the pace of innovation, the pace of disruption, even the risk of disruption is accelerating. And you would know, right? Technology evolves at an exponential pace.
Absolutely.
So if you look at the components of the S&P 500 index in the US, 24 years back in 2000, a company which was amongst the top 10 stocks in the S&P 500 would stay there for an average of 85 years. Okay. By 2018, the time that a top 10 company would spend in the top 10 of S&P 500 had come down to 33 years. And by
Wow.
2027, we expect that this will be just 12 years. right? So new leaders are emerging every day, every year. Today, a startup in the US goes from an idea in the garage to a unicorn stage in 6 years on an average.
Yeah.
In India, you would know startups are making waves, right? So we have what,
Yes.
115 unicorns. By
Yes.
2030, this number will double. And
Yes.
we want to be there when that happens, right?
Correct.
And not
Correct.
to mention that, public markets are quite buoyant. Many
Mm-hmm.
of these companies could potentially bypass private equity entirely, could potentially bypass second or third round of
Mm-hmm.
private equity, hit the markets earlier, which
Mm-hmm.
means there would be more money left on the table for investors. So the question is not why now. The question is why not now?
Why not now? Oh, wow, I did not think about it like that. It is actually a very interesting take on the fund and obviously on the overall scenario per se. So continuing with that factor, can you give a little bit insights on the investment philosophy? What is the investment philosophy? What are the sectors are we looking at? What companies, large caps, mid caps, small caps? How is the general philosophy and the strategy in and around this particular fund?
So the fund is, sector agnostic. It
Okay.
is market cap agnostic, right? It
Correct.
will be managed pretty much like a flexi cap fund. Okay,
Okay.
but the main gist of what we are looking at, the main philosophy behind, who we consider to be innovators is basically, companies that will fall under one of three buckets, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first bucket is that, either you're a product or service innovator. Second would be a process innovator. And third bucket is whether you're an innovation adapter, right? Now, product or service innovators would be companies which invest heavily in R&D, right? They're
Okay.
developing either a new product or a service which will disrupt the status quo. And, don't
Mm-hmm.
always think of an innovator as a tech company, right? Say, for example, a pharma company. They develop a new drug and, something totally new, which goes and disrupts the market. They would be considered an innovator too. So
Correct.
companies in this bucket would either be challenging the existing norm or they
Mm-hmm.
would be creating new markets altogether,
Okay.
right? The next set are the process innovators. Now, these would be companies which will change the way things are done, right? They need not have a new product, they need not have a new service,
Mm-hmm.
but they will have a new way of managing them.
Mm.
10-minute delivery, right? Remember when Domino's changed the entire game when they said half an hour
Yeah.
free, right? That is a process share which can
Okay.
take, that's a process change which can take market share away from the incumbents, right?
Correct.
Not everybody will be an innovator, right?
Yeah.
So we have the third bucket, which is the innovation adapter. Now,
Okay.
these guys aren't the first one through the door, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they adapt very, very quickly, right?
Mm.
They see emerging changes, they see new technology, they latch onto it, and they're able to create value out of it, right? For example, Google, right? It's
Correct.
one of the most recognizable brands, one of the biggest companies. But were they the first ones with the search engine? No.
No.
But they saw the opportunity and they went for it. So the
Mm-hmm.
philosophy, I mean, the broad philosophy is to find, companies like this. It is going to be a bottom-up stock selection, so it doesn't matter what sector they fall into. But I want to just emphasize that, don't look at this fund as a technology fund, right?
Correct.
You will
Correct.
find innovators in every sector.
I think that part is quite important. Whenever we hear innovation, it's all about technology and something or the other related to computer and computer services. But I think innovation literally, spreads and, it moves across different domains and different sectors as well. And innovator comes in different forms and formats. So I think that's a very good point for our investors and for our viewers to know that it's just not about technology. It's a little bit more than that.
Right.
Then, ma'am, how do we, how is the portfolio construction approach towards the, what's the approach towards portfolio construction of this innovative opportunity fund?
Okay, so our fund manager is Prasad Padala. He, like I said, will be using a bottom-up approach for stock selection, which means that he will not begin by giving a sector allocation or an industry allocation. He will judge each individual stock on its merit, and then he will work his way up, right?
Okay.
It is agnostic to market cap, it is agnostic to sectors, right?
Correct.
He's looking to have a total of between 35 to 40 stocks. It'll have that flexi cap flavor. But how will stocks be selected, right? There are, again, three things that Saad will be looking for. So the first thing is that, the business model should be resilient, right? They should have a high competitive advantage with a strong moat.
Okay.
The second is the growth. There should be high growth potential and there must be longevity of that. And the third will be cash flow and return on equity.
Okay.
Now, you might ask me that, what are you talking about return on equity for these companies? Does that even exist? But you know what? These are companies which are at the beginning of their business cycle, right? They don't necessarily make money now. So how are we going to judge this aspect?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
we'll be looking for companies which have put in place their unit economics, which means that when they do make money, they make pots of it. Okay. So this is a thematic fund. And as per SEBI's definition of thematic funds, it means that 80% of the AUM of the fund will be invested in stocks which fit the definition of innovation as we have specified. We do have permission to invest up to 35% in foreign stocks, but that is, of course, contingent on, when RBI opens up the overseas investment limits. And just one more thing, if I can take the liberty to add here, is because we're talking about stock selection, right? And, I want to quickly address the topic of high valuations, because that is something that invariably creates these.
Correct.
Right. So I will just give you one example. In what was it, 2006, right? Google bought YouTube. Valuation was a little over $1.5 billion. At that time, YouTube's revenue was, I think, $15 million, right? So they bought it at some 100 times revenue. As of 2023, YouTube is making them a revenue of $30 billion.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't make sense to miss the woods for the trees. So yes, valuations are important even to us. But more important than that will be finding, stocks which have the right business models and growth profile, because that can take care of the optically high valuations. And another way to look at it is also, that even high growth companies, they will see periods of correction. And hopefully that is when Prasad will be waiting to, sort of pick them up.
That's actually quite interesting. And I mean, you answered my question. I was about to ask that, do we have a foreign stock exposure? And I think that is slightly dependent on the RBI and other regulatory compliances. That one question answered. Now let's come back to the factor that who is this fund for? I mean, that's a very basic question. Now, we discussed a lot about from the fund point of view. Now let's discuss it from the investor point of view. How would you suggest that, who is this fund for? What's the target investor for this fund? What they should be looking for? What should be they expecting out of this fund?
Okay. So the SBI Innovative Opportunities Fund is a thematic fund, right? So by definition, that means it is in the high risk category. So, to begin with, that's the very first thing you have to be comfortable with, is the risk associated. And even amongst themes, this is a fund which will be betting on change, right? For which there is no precedent, right? I mean, they're disruptors. We don't know what they're going to do. So that is the risk that investors have to be willing to take, right? Naturally, funds like these need a longer gestation period. So if somebody's in, even if it's a sophisticated investor, right? If you're investing, you need a longer time horizon. You have to get in knowing that this is not one of those, 3-year, 4-year funds. This may take slightly longer. And naturally, in a fund like this, also returns can, I mean, in no equity fund, returns can be linear. More so in thematic funds, right? Because they follow cycles.
Correct.
Having said that, every risk presents an equally big opportunity for wealth creation. So I would say that, it is well suited for savvier, more sophisticated investors who understand the innovation happening, the technology needed, and they're looking to allocate, 4 or 5% of their portfolio to benefit from, what can I say, this brave new world that hundreds and thousands of innovators are busy creating.
So that's all about it. I think. Thank you so much for coming here, giving us time, and giving us your insights on this SBI Innovative Opportunities Fund. I'm pretty sure it will be very well subscribed, very well received by the investors. We will be doing our best to ensure that the right information reaches out to right set of people. Thank you so much for coming here and having a discussion with us.
Thank you, Abhinay. Thank you very much to all of you guys at AssetPlus. You're doing a wonderful job, and it's my absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.